Hi, welcome back to CineMunn. I'm your host, Vince Munn, joined today with two guests. First is Benjamin Briggs.
Hey, everybody.
And Ty Metropolis, our tech man.
Thank you, Vince.
Alright, guys, let's get right into it. Suicide Squad! Suicide Squad is set to come out on August 5th, 2016, directed by David Ayer, and Warner Brothers has finally announced their casting with Jared Leto as the Joker, Will Smith as Deadshot, Tom Hardy as Rick Flag, Margot Robbie as the lovely Harley Quinn. That'll be fun. Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang, which is hilarious. Okay, first off, we just have to address it. Yes, they are going to do the Joker again. Does it seem kind of soon? I guess it does. Do I really care? No. The first thing people need to remember, always, it's the hardest part of this, is that this is going to be a separate universe from the Nolan movies, from Heath Ledger, from Christian Bale. It's going to be a completely different iteration of it. To compare and contrast is unfair to both actors, really, to say that one is better than the other. When really, we have no idea what they're going to do with this character. I mean, I'm personally, I'm not really keen for the Jared Leto casting. That's just me. But if either of you guys have an opinion on that, I mean, feel free to toss it in there.
I think, actually, if there's anybody that might not necessarily surpass Heath Ledger's performance, but go toe-to-toe with it, I think that Jared Leto is one of the perfect guys to go for it. We saw him in Dallas Buyers Club. We've seen him in a lot of other stuff. He just absolutely gets lost in his character. In fact, when he was doing Dallas Buyers Club, he said that he didn't really come into his character until he was fully inside the makeup, and that's what gave it such a great performance, which gave him the Best Supporting Actress at the Academy Awards. You know, like you said, I agree that, you know, it's not very fair, just like how we have with Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger, where people go back and forth, and even go a little farther back with the Adam West, Cesar Romano, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're all different people, it's all different times, it's all different genres, not different genres, but different takes on the character, and you allow that little creative freedom to see how that character develops. And I'm actually looking forward to Jared Leto's Joker, and I'm interested to see what he can bring to the table, and no doubt it'll be a phenomenal performance.
Have either of you guys read Suicide Squad?
I've read up on part of it. I'm very interested to see all the characters just come together and make that just bit of their own kind of unique take on that universe. We're so used to seeing the hero kind of aspect. You got Batman and Superman, but then you're going into now the villains, and you're going to see all that correlate and kind of what that brings to the universe.
Okay.
I'm excited to see Will Smith in another superhero movie after Hancock. It's pretty funny, so I'd like to see him in a little bit more of a serious role.
Yeah, I think this will be a much more serious role. I am hoping that I'm sure Warner Brothers has thought about this as well. I mean, they're smart people over there. I'm sure they've thought to not do with this film what Disney has done with Maleficent, what Sony Animation has done with Despicable Me, where they take the bad guy and they make them the hero, the protagonist. They make them likable. I mean, yes, you want to like the character, but you want to like the character for the right reason. You want to like him because he's a badass, because he's, it's Deadshot. He never misses. Captain Boomerang, who's one of the most ridiculous characters you ever saw in a comic book. Oh my god, he literally throws like razor-sharp boomerangs. That's like his bit. That's pretty much his whole bit. It's ridiculous. But
don't tell Bruce Wayne.
I'm sure he has a way of dealing with that. I believe Captain Boomerang is more of a Flash villain, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
But still, I mean, this Suicide Squad seems like Warner Brother and DC's answer to Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy obviously being a very obscure comic book. I mean, some of the most hardcore fans I know that read comic books barely knew anything about Guardians of the Galaxy, especially what direction they're going to go with the film once it was announced. And I see this as their kind of other hand to, okay, you guys are going to do weird-ass space heroes, we're going to do a villain team-up, and we're going to do it this way, and we're going to have the Joker in there, and we're going to throw the Joker in. I'm praying to God that the Joker is the villain of this film.
Yeah. That
the Suicide Squad is brought together to fight or hunt or bring in the Joker for a bounty. That he is not part of the team and gonna be a good guy, and we're gonna like him because, he's redeemable. No. This is the Batman villain. This is supposed to be the polar opposite of Batman, and you always have to keep that in mind, especially with characters. And hopefully this is all one universe. I've actually not heard anything from Kevin Tsujihara, from Warner Brothers, from DC, saying that this falls into the continuity line of Man of Steel, Batman, Superman, Dawn of Justice, Aquaman. I have personally not seen anything says this is part of that.
So
canon.
right now we're dealing with, potentially 3 separate universes in the DC comics because you got the television series, which is its own line.
Yeah.
You have the movies, which Dawn of Justice is going to be Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and potentially one more. And that's going to be its own universe. And then you're saying with Suicide Squad, it's going to be another universe.
And even they've even said that the Shazam film they have coming up with The Rock could potentially be outside of the DC cinematic universe, to where it's its own bit, and depending on how it's received, how it goes, it might then be blended into the DC canon.
Do you think with Suicide Squad being potentially a different universe that they might kind of not go as with the dark kind of reality aspect that they're doing with Man of Steel and the Dark Knight series? Or do you think they're going to make it? Because earlier you mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy, how it's comedy, it's fun, that kind of stuff. Then you got Nolan's take, which kind of brought this dark reality aspect. People were a bit frustrated with how Superman's character played out in Man of Steel. But then, that's also, the reality aspect is you have to make those kind of decisions. So my thing with Suicide Squad, do you think it's more aimed on the darker side or a bit of comedy? And remember, it's a correlation of villains. So if it is dark, it would be more fitting. If it's comedy, it could fit too, but just which direction do you think they could go with that?
If they were to actually kind of take it into that semi-comedic route, hopefully not winking necessarily at the audience, like, hey, look what we're doing. Just buy this for a bit type thing. I don't want that. But you could potentially put this as like a dark comedy where it's very different and it feels almost uncomfortable, and these are bad guys and you're going on a journey with them and they're doing questionable things and have questionable motives, and you're kind of rooting for them but for the wrong reasons. I don't see this as being a fun, any movie should be fun, but I'm not seeing it as taking that more fun approach to where when you got out of Guardians of the Galaxy you were like, what did I just see? And you were kind of pumped up and excited, and God, it's like I saw Star Wars again for the first time type feel. I don't think that's gonna happen with Suicide Squad. Now the fun part of it that will be is you are going to introduce the character of Harley Quinn, which has not really. She's been done if you've ever seen Birds of Prey, she was on that. That was a show that lasted for 1 season. She was introduced on that in live action, and she has been introduced on the show Arrow as well. I think mostly in voice, not so much in physical character. She has been introduced in a live-action series. So it won't necessarily be her first time, but it will be first time in film, played by a lead actress as a lead character. And the biggest question a lot of people I've been reading online is she going to be with the Joker? Is she going to be with her Putin? Are they going to be together? Are they going to be broken up? What's going to be the deal? Is she already going to be crazy and all makeup up, or is she going to be the Doctor dealing with the Joker? And I really don't think that she's going to be Dr. Harleen Quinzel. I think she will be Harley Quinn by the time this movie starts.
Part of what I was thinking too. It's like if they started off as the Doctor, they're going to try to establish her whole character along with all the other villains, Joker and all those guys, and it's like it's going to be a little too overwhelming for the director to try to get that all fitted in. You look at movies like Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi, with Sandman, Hobgoblin, and the Venom.
Yeah.
And just trying to get all those 3 characters to work together, go after Spider-Man. This is kind of like each villain had to be introduced, along with still going with the Peter Parker Spider-Man story. It just seemed a bit too much. And the audience, they can find themselves a bit like, what am I following? What am I supposed to,
I'm supposed to think with
keep track of? Yeah.
One thing I found interesting, there's a rumor going around Jesse Eisenberg's coming in as Lex Luthor.
Yes, I have read that. I have read that, I've heard that, and I am all for it. I actually have been a big fan of his casting as Lex Luthor. I can see it, I buy it. If you saw The Social Network, obviously, Tommy, you borrowed it from me, you watched it. You give me your thoughts on that already. I still think his casting as Lex Luthor is a very bold, ballsy choice, because I know a lot of people will associate him with the kind of like the slightly more serious Michael Cera, and I think he's actually more than that. Michael Cera, not to be mean to Michael Cera or anything like that, is kind of a one note. He's got like a one trick pony. He's kind of the same guy in every film. In Juno, on Arrested Development, in Scott Pilgrim, he was always kind of the same bit. Scott Pilgrim, he was a little more developed. I'll give him that. But Jesse Eisenberg, I've seen, has done comedy. He's done drama. He's done thriller. He's fun. He's interesting. He's engaging, and especially with the way he was in Social Network in their lawyer battles, he's very cold and distant and precise and sharp. And I think he's going to bring that to Lex Luthor and make him a formidable mind for Superman, for Batman to do battle against. Not even physical battle, but more a duel of words, I think, would be suitable. And I think with the way he can present that and push it towards the people, not necessarily the audience, but the people in the film, as Superman's a threat, I think he can sell it and people will buy it. And so, his potential being in Suicide Squad is just another reason maybe he's funding it. Maybe it's his money that's going into them, that's paying for them to be out and have their stuff. And there's even, obviously, if you bring Suicide Squad in, you have to bring in their leader, Amanda Waller, who's one of the first real dominant black female characters in comic books to have authority. And if you look at the old books, let's say before New 52, she was heavier, kind of stocky woman, short haircut or like in a tight bun. And so the rumor has been going around that they've been looking at Viola Davis from The Help, Octavia Spencer, also from The Help, and, this one makes me giggle, Oprah Winfrey. All three of these people are being looked at very closely as playing Amanda Waller. I can see that. Oprah is... The only thing with Oprah is she will draw me out of the film because it's Oprah.
Right.
I mean, voice and face recognition, we've been listening to her for 20-some years on TV. It's hard to decipher. She's a good actress. You've seen Beloved, you've seen Color Purple. Even in The Butler, she was okay. But it's still, for me, when she comes on screen, I go, oh, that's Oprah.
Right.
It's not to me, oh, that's the character she is in the film. No, that's Oprah. So that's the only thing that worries me about her casting. Other than that, I think she would be fine with it. She looks the part. I think she has a command authority. She'll be there with the Suicide Squad going, you get a villain, and you get someone else, and you get someone else. Everybody gets guns. But I can see that happening as being a lovely joke.
Well, it just plays through your head. You're not even... It's one of those things that distracts you from the film. You're kind of watching it, but then you see an actor portraying some character, but at the same time, your mind on default is like, oh, I know who that is. So this movie's going to do something like that. And your mind's just kind of playing that little fantasy imagination, and it doesn't really happen, but it does kind of distract you from the movie a bit. So when you pick your casting, pick your actors or actresses, you do also want to make sure that doesn't happen. I mean, when Dane Cook went into acting and portraying roles, I mean, he did do comedies, but then he did a serious movie, and
Mr. Brooks. That was very different.
It was one of those things that you see a serious character being portrayed by someone who's already established himself as a comedian, and it was a little distracting. So,
the last thing I want to address with Suicide Squad before I move on is the potential thought that would Jared Leto as the Joker, being as he will be in the film in some sort of way, either as a cameo, as a quick role, or as a main villain, would he then be kind of asked or persuaded or, paid? Because let's say, everyone gets paid in Hollywood. Everyone gets about money. Would he then try to get his band, 30 Seconds to Mars, to do a song in or for the movie? What do you think about that?
I don't see it being a problem. I mean...
You think it would draw you out at any point? So just hypothetical. Let's say he gives the best Joker performance ever. You completely forget it's Jared Leto. To you, this is the Joker. And then, at some point, either in the movie or right at the beginning of the credits, on comes a track from 30 Seconds to Mars, done by him. Would it completely draw you out of the film, of what you just seen?
I don't think so.
Well,
you don't think so?
You're talking about the credits. It's like the movie's already done and over with.
I'm saying. Let's say it's just for the sake of saying it's either in the film, just as background noise, but you can loud enough that you can hear it, or it's right at the beginning of the credits. In the credits.
Yeah, it wouldn't distract me.
You don't think so?
No.
All right. Mm-hmm. All right. Moving on. Our next topic of the day is Doctor Strange. Marvel has finally officially announced that Benedict Cumberbatch of Sherlock, Star Trek in the Darkness, and the Hobbit trilogy will be playing the Sorcerer Supreme for their film Doctor Strange, coming out November of 2016.
November 4th.
November 4th. Thank you, Ben. November 4th, 2016. I keep forgetting release dates. For me, this is an obvious choice. It's not my favorite choice. It's an obvious choice. Is he fine? Will he be fine? Does he kind of look the part? Does he have the commanding voice? Yes, yes, and yes. Does that mean he is the best person for the role? To me, no.
That's going to be portrayed by so many different people. One person's going to say, yes, he definitely should play the role, and then you're going to have someone else say, like, no, this guy should play the role. So,
but for me, it's giving a reason why. The only reason I say no to Cumberbatch playing Doctor Strange is because he's in friggin' everything right now. He's in The Hobbit. He has Imitation Game coming out, and I think they're kind of riding that wave of Oscar buzz for him, and that's, I think, why they waited to announce him. Because they've been asked about this for months and months now. You know, who's playing Doctor Strange? It's going to be Cumberbatch. I know you look like Cumberbatch. We've been hearing rumors that Cumberbatch has talked to at Marvel, and he might be Doctor Strange. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And, you know, then everyone's bugging Marvel, Kevin Feige and Cumberbatch. Are you playing Doctor Strange? Are you going to play Doctor Strange? Are you going to play Doctor Strange? And I think they've had it cast, kind of the way they had Paul Rudd cast for Ant-Man, and they've just been waiting. I think they've just kind of been taking that card and just holding it in the sleeve until they need to play it. And now they've played it, but I think it's been set for a while.
Well, as you mentioned, Cornerback he's played all these different roles, and obviously you got to kind of take a look at that and say he's got enough talent to portray all those different characters.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not knocking his talent or anything like that. I'm just saying, to me, because of his popularity, right now at least, the man's on fire basically. It's obvious that he would be looked at very closely and or picked for the role. Right. Now, to me, Doctor Strange should be someone older. Someone who is in their kind of more around Downey Jr.'s age. Downey's like on the border of 50. I thought someone more around that age would be playing Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is supposed to be the world's greatest surgeon. I mean, maybe you could step back and look at it as kind of Doogie Howser-ish. He started young, and so here he is now in his mid-30s, already like a master surgeon, and that's part of his origin story. He's this arrogant surgeon who gets in an accident, his hands are damaged, and therefore his skill is gone in everything he does. And he goes to, I think it's like Tibetan mountains, and is trained in the mystic arts, and becomes the Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange. The only thing that tells me they might not go down that road is because he was already mentioned in Winter Soldier. Very quick throwaway line, but it said a lot. If that he's already being looked at by Hydra and such, the way Bruce Banner is, the way Captain America is, the way all the Avengers are, then he's already to that level of dangerous for Hydra. As in, he's already the Sorcerer Supreme. He's already established in the Marvel Universe, as a character at least. We just haven't met him yet on his path.
Right.
So, I mean, Ben, what are your thoughts on Cumberbatch with Strange?
I know there's a lot of buzz around him. I know he's a, fantastic actor and stuff. But, if you got the skill, if you got it, you got it. Like to go off what you say about thinking about somebody like Robert Downey Jr. I like his films. I think he's a great actor as well. But, he's kind of got that sexy look to him. Like he is Robert Downey Jr. in each film he does. Just kind of like how Brad Pitt is Brad Pitt in everything he kind of does. Versus someone like Christian Bale, Daniel Day-Lewis, even Benedict Cumberbatch, who, they transform and they get into their roles and they change. Nothing wrong with, being the Hollywood heartthrob and being yourself. Mm-hmm. But, I'm interested to see how he's going to play it. I think he can bring that unique take to it and give something that audiences might not really expect.
The same goes for me. I'd say if he's got that amount of talent, then yeah, he can bring that character. So I don't see him as being potentially like, oh, you're going to screw this up. Yeah. I don't see that happening. So I'm looking forward to it. And I know, as you mentioned earlier, it's like one thing trying to get an older actor, and that might be more ideal. But at the same time, it could also go like, well, we want Benedict to play four different Doctor Strange movies, whether it be upcoming Infinity Wars. We want you to be in the last film. It's going to count as one. But the other thing too, if it's a 10-year, 15-year project, they don't want to get someone who is potentially they could get too old or worn out for the role. Mm-hmm. So they got to kind of grab him, an actor in his prime, and that's why I see that pick being Benedict.
I think the only reason that it did take so long, aside from possibly riding the Oscar buzz he has going right now, is obviously the man is doing a lot of stuff. He has a committed TV show with Sherlock that I think is going into another season. So obviously filming and staying with that in London as opposed to shooting. Doctor Strange, I think, is shooting here in America. I could be wrong. But I think that's part of it, as well as what any other project he has coming up. And promotional tours, obviously, is doing promotional tour right now for The Hobbit, coming out as the last film. And though he's only in that for the first maybe 20 minutes or so, he's still part of it.
Thanks for the spoiler.
Oh, come on, you read the book. don't give me that crap. You read the book. You know what happens to Smaug. Okay, earlier this week, Terminator Genesis finally dropped their first trailer. Terminator Genesis will come out next summer, July 1st, 2015, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones, J.K. Simmons, Jason Clarke. They are not siblings. Jason Clarke was in Dawn Planet of the Apes recently, this last summer. Trailer dropped. What did you think, Ben?
I liked it. There was a slight part in there where you see the reference to the motorcycle jump from T2. It's very quick, but I thought that was kind of neat that they give a little, something for the people who've enjoyed it. There was the CGI on, I think it's now called the T800, not the T1000 anymore. But the CGI looks so good on there. For a second, I thought it was almost the Silver Surfer from the second Fantastic Four movie. And I liked it. I think there's a lot of potential here. Is it going to be, a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's not the, it's not the first one, it's not the second one, it's not this. But I think it's going to be fun. I think everyone's going to have a good time with it. It's going to be a good action flick. Is it going to win anything, spectacular? I don't know. But I am excited to see the Governator back in action. I know he's getting up there, but we still saw him in the Expendables, and I'm looking forward to seeing him again in Terminator.
And back on this project for Genesis, it is Cameron, right?
No, James Cameron is not directing this one.
Oh, interesting.
Alan Taylor, who directed Thor: The Dark World. He's directed a few episodes of Game of Thrones. He's directing this one.
Okay. Because his name was pinned to a little trailer that I saw, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
To me, the trailer looked great. I mean, it looks like it's going to have that old-fashioned Terminator feel, but at the same time, I'm also, as following the trailer, I'm kind of feeling this X-Men Days of Future Past thing where you've got fans that love the first two Terminators. They didn't really like the third one, and then Salvation was okay. With X-Men 1 and 2 kind of having the same trend, 3 people kind of up in the air about it, and then you got the Wolverine
Origins,
films on their own.
Films, yeah.
It's like it's that same trend. People were okay with the Wolverine films, but then it gets into this whole where into the story arc are we and stuff. So, and Salvation did establish that, but Genesis is one of those things. It's like we're going to go back and kind of redo the whole arc. So that's where I was a bit like, are you trying to keep the story going, or are you making the story go back? It's like, so it's one of those things where, to me, it's like you're going to potentially lose me, because X-Men Days of Future Past, it did lose me a little bit. It looked great, it looked fantastic, but my thing was X-Men Days of Future Past was portrayed as a sequel to X-Men 3, but
not necessarily. It was portrayed as a sequel to X-Men First Class.
First Class, but it also had elements from the first generation.
Well, yes, because the whole purpose with First Class and with Days of Future Past was to realign their broken canon that they developed in X-Men. So the whole purpose with First Class, and then into Days of Future Past, a little more directly and detailed, was to then redirect the ship, redirect the course.
And I don't think Terminators really needs to redirect or fix something. It's just that they're kind of, it seems like the trend, let's go back, fix something in the timeline that we don't like, and that way when we go to the next film or the film after that, it'll be a bit better experience. And I'm kind of like, well, you're going through this whole convoluted process to really do it, to establish it, and it's, I want to see a movie and be able to enjoy it up front, as opposed to be like, I got to watch this again and again and again to understand it. And for some movies, that's fun. Just to throw a couple examples, like Shutter Island. It's one of those movies that you watch it, it's up front at the ending, you know how the story works, but when you watch it again, you pick up on different things, and that's great for those type of movies. But I just feel like with Genesis, it's one of those movies that I'm gonna have to watch it several times just to pick it up as I would the first time, just to understand it. So, and again, the movie's not out, but that's just my take on the trailer. Yeah.
See, I looked at it. I liked it, but there was something about it that felt, I guess, false is the word I'm looking for. Because when you watch the old Terminator film, any of them, from 84, from 91, even parts of Terminator 3, it feels real. It feels like you're in the real world. It feels real world for the most part because it was a product of its time. So therefore the time that it's in stands out, at least to me. Right. This film feels like it's trying to go back and recreate that time in its own different way. And it felt like a greatest hits. We were talking about this earlier on the way over here.
Right.
It feels like a greatest hits where they've hit all the kind of keynotes you remember from the original films. You remember the "Come with me if you want to live" when Sarah Connor pulls into the department store and picks up Kyle Reese.
Yeah.
You remember the character of Kyle Reese. You remember Sarah Connor from 1984 when she was a young girl before she had John Connor, before she had that son. You remember they brought in the gentleman who plays Storm Shadow in G.I. Joe, I forgot his name, is playing a kind of T-1000 role. Mm-hmm. He's dressed as a cop, he's liquid metal, chasing them. You remember that from Terminator 2. And it's got all these little hints back at the other films that I'm afraid are going to make it stick out. As in, like, hey, remember this? Hey, remember that? Yes, for you.
Distract the audience.
I don't want to feel distracted. I want to feel like this is either going to pull Star Trek to where they go back to a character origin and change it and make it something completely new that's fresh and feels different and you like it, or it's going to wink at you the whole time and just ask you just buy it. Just go with us on the ride and just take it for what it is at face value. I don't want that. Terminator is a very not sacred property, but it's a very classic property. It's a milestone in technology, in animatronics, in storytelling. I mean, it's one of those. You talk about time travel films, you talk about sci-fi movies, you talk about action movies. Terminator is on every single one of those lists. It's set a bar as far as what you expect in time travel. It's okay, continuity, so we did this here, so then it should affect it all the way down there, things like that. How the animatronics look, how the puppetry worked, how you bought it. I mean, you saw Terminator walk out of the fire the first time, and you bought it. You're like, oh my god, this is a real friggin' robot. I thought Arnold Schwarzenegger was a bodybuilder. No, he's an android. And I believed it. So, that's the only thing I'm scared of. I mean, and seeing John Connor for the third time in the future with the scar down his face. The first time was cool. Christian Bale, I liked it. Jason Clarke now, it just looks like he's got a big old piece of clay on his face. That's the scar, and it just looks all kinds of finangled and just weird, and it bothered me. Maybe that's just me.
No, it wasn't just you. I saw the same thing, and I'm like, I can understand. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's some things that happen in the story, which is typical for any movie, but between Salvation and Genesis. But my thing is that, it bothered me. I'm like, are you changing? Like, what's changing as opposed to staying the same? And then, like as I said, I was trying to follow the trailer. It's like, okay, so there's that change, but there's also going back in time. There's the homages to the old Terminator classic 1 and 2, and so it's like, which thing am I kind of following here? And I understand trailers supposed to do that, but
trailers are to sell the product.
Right, that's the other thing. I don't want to be lost in the trailer if I'm going to go try to see the film. So, yeah.
All right, one of our last topics of the day will be Bond 24. MGM has come out and announced their 24th James Bond film titled Spectre, obviously a reference to the old James Bond films of the 60s and 70s, where the organization Spectre was kind of going against MI6, stealing information and whatnot. The cast will return of Daniel Craig as 007, Ray Fiennes as M, Naomi Harris as Moneypenny, and I believe his last name is pronounced Ben Whishaw as Q. There are no story details. There is no plot line revealed right now. It's just simply a teaser poster, a title, and they also announced Christoph Waltz as their villain, which is awesome. Yes, I am excited for that. I love Christoph Waltz. I'll be honest with you, it took me a while to watch Inglourious Basterds.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm a big World War II buff. I'm a big World War II buff, and I love the history of it. And it means something to me. It's very personal to me and my family. So seeing that film and what it felt at the time, I wasn't really into Tarantino anymore. I was over it with Kill Bill. I didn't care for Kill Bill. That's just me. Don't give me the face. So I wasn't really keen on Inglourious Basterds. It looked kind of like a dark comedy that was set in World War II with this kind of, hey, what if a bunch of Jews were around killing Nazis? All right. And I didn't get it. And then I watched it finally. About a year and a half ago, I sat down, I watched it, and I loved it. And I love Christoph Waltz. And he was so wonderful as Hans Landa. It was so great. And then he did Django. And I absolutely loved Django. I loved his character in Django. I was so sad when he died. It took me out of the film. I was like, I don't want to watch this anymore now because he is gone. But his character, his Oscar win was so well-deserved, and I was so excited for that. And I'm excited. This man was born to play a Bond villain. He's got the look. He's got the suave. And to see him I want like a profile picture of him and Daniel Craig facing off as like a teaser poster. I think that would be awesome. I think that would sell. I'd steal that damn poster.
Absolutely.
And I believe it. And he could sell it, and he can make you like him as a villain, even more than Javier Bardem did in Skyfall. I think you would like him even more. Tommy, what did you think of the announcement of Bond 24?
Well, to me, I've always really had fun with the Bond films, and I mean, I've always enjoyed them. I haven't followed it as much. I haven't gotten much. I haven't even seen the poster, but I did hear about the cast, and I'm thrilled for that. With no story, I can't say much because I haven't been following the previous Bonds like how many have, but it'll be fun. I haven't really kind of taken a Bond film and be like, I was really disappointed with it. It is what it is, and
some of the later Brosnan films were a little bit like that. Die Another Day was a little, very over the top, actually.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's one of those things. It's still fun. It does still follow, James Bond, though, and you kind of just take that in. You're like, okay, this is going to happen. Mm-hmm. I've never seen really any of the James Bonds where it's like, what the heck just happened? So it's been fun. I've never had a bad experience with them, so I'm looking forward to see how this one plays out.
Ben, what are your thoughts on Bond 20? I was about to say Skyfall. Bond 24. Spectre. Skyfall. Spectre. Skyfall's on Spectre.
Well, I think it's going to be, like you said, I think it's going to be really fun. You forgot to mention one character, though.
Okay.
You forgot to mention probably the most key character, Dave Bautista. Sorry.
That's right. I forgot Dave Bautista.
Dave Bautista, who is going to literally make or break this film.
You think so?
No. I'm just kidding.
Why you gotta do that?
I'm just excited to see Bautista. I love seeing him. I love them in Guardians of the Galaxy. I love it when they bring in some of the WWE superstars to do these films. Funny fact, really quick, they just announced that they actually created a brand new Aston Martin in honor of this film. I forget how much it was. I want to say around $200,000.
Oh,
probably more. So it's one of my price range.
Yeah. You think? Out of your price range? No. I think you could trade in for that truck.
Yeah. You can check it out online, see the actual pictures, but I know it just got released. I'm excited as well to see Christoph Waltz. Like you said, with Inglourious Basterds, just the opening monologue he has.
Yes.
Whew! Fell in love with the guy. And it's one of those weird things you don't want to root for a Nazi. But
you feel kind of weird doing that. Especially when your parents are Jewish. Sorry, Mom.
But I think he is going to be a superb James Bond villain. I think he's going to do a really great job. And it's going to actually release November 6th, 2015.
So they announced it. They announced that, December 4th? And it's supposed to release November
6th.
November 6th. So less than a year.
There you go.
So less than a year to get the script, shoot the film, post-production, promote, and release.
Wow. Well, as you said, there's only just a poster. There hasn't been anything else released. So how do you know if they don't have...
I honestly... I think they've announced their director, Sam Mendes, is coming back. I think they've announced their screenwriter. I don't think they've announced they have a script, that it's a finalized script. I'm sure it is, otherwise you probably wouldn't have drawn in the cast you did with Christoph Waltz, with Dave Bautista. I don't think you would have drawn those characters in again. Obviously, with Craig and with the main M16 cast, they're contractually obligated to come back, sorry, regardless of how the script... I mean, obviously you can put notes and input and whatnot, and several drafts, but I don't think they've announced a final draft script for that film. And it's kind of mean to say that here MGM with Bond is announced their film and release date within 11 months' time, and we still have to wait another year and a half for Batman vs Superman, which was announced last year at Comic-Con.
I was going to say, and going into that too, it's like you see Marvel have their...
Oh yeah,
they're like, yeah, we got these
9
movies,
films
we know
for the
when
next
they were
5
going to
years.
come out. And it's like, as you were telling me, it's like Marvel, when they announced theirs, they made it like an event.
Yeah.
And when DC announced it, he said it was
a stockbrokers meeting.
Stockbrokers meeting.
Yeah, it just like we're talking business. Oh, by the way, these are the Warner Brother films we're going to do. We're going to do Batman vs Superman. We're going to do Green Lantern and Cyborg, and very kind of.
And part of that DC announcement was Suicide Squad in that DC announcement.
I don't believe. So. Suicide Squad was announced before that.
Okay, so that would also be part of what you said, like earlier.
If it's part of the
it's a different
universe,
universe. So yeah,
it could,
Suicide Squad
potentially
being if they don't have that lined up with their plan of Wonder Woman and future Batmans and Supermans, Suicide Squad's potentially going to be its own. The only thing though is that when people kind of see Suicide Squad and they fall kind of in love with that villain, and they're like, oh, it'd be great if this villain and this hero matched up. It's like, you can't do that.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Well, the last piece of news we have today, and I didn't get into our notes because it came out after we had done our show notes because we were planning to do this show the other day, and life gets in the way. That's just how it is. Life will always come first before our podcast, unfortunately. But we try to do this as much as we can. We're going to try to make this a two times a week show as often as we can, unless events and other things get in the way. The last piece that dropped out was Fox has officially announced their Deadpool film coming out in February of 2016 with Ryan Reynolds in their lead role of Deadpool / Wade Wilson. This is one of the best pieces of casting I've heard all week, aside from aside from Bond. This is one of my favorite pieces of casting because Ryan Reynolds is basically born to play Deadpool in every way, shape, and form. Physically, obviously, humor-wise, you get it, you buy it. He was the best part of X-Men Origins Wolverine, was that first 10 minutes with him on the mutant team running around doing missions. His jokes, his gags, even little stuff he did, out of focus of camera that you didn't catch was still in character, and you bought it, and you believed it, and it was so funny. So him playing Deadpool is just like, fits like a glove. It's a match made in heaven, and I'm excited to see it. Obviously, we saw the test footage he did. He did the voice for it. He did the motion capture for it, for at least what he could do. And we already believe it. We've been wanting it. The man has been championing this film for years now. He's been wanting Deadpool. And, it turns out dreams do come true, at least for him.
Woo!
What do you think of Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool, Ben?
Who else could you ask for? He's got...
Christopher Walken. It looks at the audience.
I suppose. He'd get Christopher Walken. No, I mean, like you said, people have been diminished. I can't tell you how many times I've been to con. There's pictures on my page where I got to meet a Deadpool dead mouse. I've seen a Jason Voorhees Deadpool. I've seen, I can't tell you, we're probably one of the most popular characters at con.
Absolutely.
Everybody loves this guy.
Lady Deadpool, Zombie Deadpool, you see him all walking around, yeah.
And I think everybody just loves this character just because of how open and honest and raw he is. Right. He's not, super... not flashy is not the word I'm looking for, because he's definitely a showman,
Absolutely.
But he's not too... He's not like your average superhero, obviously. He's not what you always come to expect, the Cape Crusader, here I come to save the day, Yeah. He's just kind of, funny... shit-talking goofball.
that to me is going to be the hardest part, because I spent a year reading Deadpool, and it's it's fun to read it, to where he not only is talking in the story to the other characters, but then he turns an aside and talks to the audience, or even talks to himself. He's got an inner monologue going, which I hope is done in voiceover, which I think will just be hilarious, to kind of hear it at one side of the theater. Well, this is his thoughts. This is him talking to you, and then the main screen is just him talking in character to the other characters in the film. And I think that's going to be very hard for people to accept. I'm ready for it. For people to accept is him breaking that fourth wall and addressing the audience like a play, kind of. Not necessarily in a play you break the fourth wall, but it's there. You can see the wall, and here he is going to be breaking it. Every audience is going to hear the same thing, obviously. But that experience, I think, will be very different and kind of hard for people to buy, which I think is one reason he was so changed in X-Men Origins, where they kind of shut him up and they made him look different and redid his whole look, and it's like, maybe they just didn't get it. I don't think they didn't get the character and what he actually is and what he represents and what he's supposed to be. I think that was the problem there because they got it in the first part and then they screwed it up. So I'm really hoping they kind of keep hands off on it and say, we get it now, have fun, play, and I'm hoping we get a kick-ass film.
And going back, I know this is not talking about the casting or anything like that, but just a thought on the Deadpool character itself. Which timeline or universe does that character exist in? Because, you have Wolverine Origins, then you have the First Class timeline, and then you have the original X-Men timeline. So which timeline, and obviously it can't be the first timeline because Deadpool wouldn't be around if he was Weapon X. So probably First Class timeline?
It'll probably be the First Class Days of Future Past timeline. Or the timeline that Days of Future Past then reconnected.
Yeah, it's the current arc. It's just...
I think it'll be the current arc.
Yeah.
I think he will fall into that. I think they'll do his own solo film, see how it goes. And obviously, I believe Fox was or still is planning to do an X-Force film, which obviously he would be part of, along with the character of Wolverine, X-23, Cable. I think Warpath is also on that team as well. I don't know if they're going to use Warpath again, the way they did in Days of Future Past. But I think they will see that Deadpool is a popular enough character that he is going to be asked more and more. We want to see him again. We want to see him again. Audience is going to want to see him again. We want to see him do more stuff. We want to see him do more stupid gags and jokes and bits and pieces and kick ass and take names all at the same time. And that I think will be the fun part of this character. So I'm really, it's going to be a big test.
He is a popular character. Would you say he's just as popular as Wolverine? Because when you talk about...
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Is he as popular as Wolverine?
Because the only thing is, like, when you do a cast of characters as opposed to a casting of one character, that one character has to have enough kind of a following or fan base or even people interested enough to go see that character. Wolverine, there's people outside of the comics that know who Wolverine is, just people talk about him in general. But, and this is an issue for, with me in, video game adaptations. Not everybody knows the name of this or this character. So just with Deadpool, is he that type of character that's going to say, people that are outside of the comics are going to say, oh, who's that? Or how well is it going to do?
I think Deadpool is a little more for the sweaty nerd community, as in, a little more the hardcores, why are you laughing at it? It's a completely plausible term.
Yeah, it is.
So comic book guy on The Simpsons, that's a sweaty nerd.
Yeah.
All right, that's that get pissed off about little bits of continuity that get broken. I think he is a little more for that crowd, but I think the appeal that Ryan Reynolds has as an actor will draw a general audience to him as well.
So you think the actor's going to sell it more
I think
than
the actor
character.
will sell the product, and therefore the product will be taken easier than if, let's say, you put an unknown in the role and then said, hey, we're going to do Deadpool with Joe Schmo.
Right.
Who the hell is that? You say, we're going to do Deadpool with Ryan Reynolds. I know Ryan Reynolds. He did that crappy Green Lantern film, and he did Buried, and he did that movie where he had the daughter that had 3 moms potentially, and he did The Proposal, which was apparently a big hit of a film. He did that, and people like him. Waiting, Just Friends, Van Wilder, if you went to college. I didn't see it. I still haven't seen Van Wilder, but that's me.
Another interesting thing you just brought up is the whole Ryan Reynolds was Green Lantern, DC. Now he's going to Deadpool, which is Marvel. So
that's not an issue at all.
It's not. No.
Because Scarlett Johansson has jumped back and forth between she did The Spirit for DC. She did Ghost World, I think, is Image comic, and now she's in the Marvel universe. I think actors jumping around. Ben Affleck played Daredevil for Fox and Marvel. Now he's playing Batman for Warner Bros. In DC. I have no problem with actors jumping back and forth. If you see a good role, if they're right for the role, take the role.
Here's what I'm going to slightly disagree with the Deadpool comment, only because I think he's gained such notoriety now that, though you're saying it's more for the Simpsons family, the Simpsons comic book guy, I think now he's the new kind of sexy thing, the new kind of flavor of the month, that a lot of people are starting to get drawn into him just because he's this new thing. I think, maybe not 10 years, or maybe 10 years ago, Wolverine beat him hands down. Everybody loved Wolverine. A lot of people still love Wolverine. But I think nowadays, with people who are just getting turned on to it, they're starting to build this popularity now. So I think it's going to attract the crowd that's not too familiar with this, and hopefully that'll inspire them to get more into the comic book genre, get a little bit more knowledge of all these heroes, and come to get to love those stories. So I really hope
that's a good point. That is true. That is a good point.
In addition, with Mr. Reynolds' performances, I hope that they just love it just because it's the character, and hopefully they can turn on to more things.
That'd be awesome. Before we go, obviously we like to do our movie quote of the day on every show. So today Benjamin has a new movie quote from what year?
Early 90s.
Early 90s.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll leave you a movie quote of the day. If you can figure it out, please leave it in the comments.
You want to come in? I'll help you in. Pull you in by your nose. That's your quote of the day.
Okay, folks. Well, that's our show for the day. You've been listening to CineMunn. I am your host, Vince, again with Talia Metropolis.
Thank you.
And Benjamin Briggs. Benjamin, are you still here?
Yes, sorry.
There he is.
A little bit of water. My fault, sorry.
That's fine. You can find us on Twitter at CineMunn. You can find us on Facebook at VinceMunn. If you want to keep the conversation going, please hit us up there online, and we'll be waiting to answer your questions, comments, or concerns. Again, please subscribe to our page, CineMunn, on YouTube. We will be trying to do shows at least twice a week. We are a brand new page. Please stick with us. Thank you for supporting us, those of you who have subscribed and left comments on our page. We can't wait to do another show.